Hey guys, this is going to be the introduction to Mudbox demo. This is going to be the first part of 3 videos where I'm going to be showing you the interface of Mudbox and the different tools that you can use. The second video will be creating a height map and stamps for Mudbox. So that you can create terrain in Mudbox, and then show you how to clean up your model and export that into Unreal. So the first thing that we're going to do is quickly just look at the interface of Mudbox. We'll start off by opening up the tree stump, because there's a nice amount of polys to work with, nice shape. When you first open a model in Mudbox, you may or may not have the wireframe on it. To turn that on and off, you hit W, and that will quickly turn on and off. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you go into Mudbox is hit Shift D, as in Dan, to subdivide your model. As you can see up here, it's putting that on a new level and adding more polys to your model. If you're on a level 6 and you're working on level 6 and then you go into level 7, you can't be on one level and make changes to another level until you go back down to that level, but that's another, we'll talk about that when we get to it. So the second thing that I do in Mudbox is I either click this button, or you can hit the arrow and make a new layer. I put everything on different layers, and as I'm always talking about, it's important to have layers and properly name things. So I'll name this, tools. Now the reason it's important to put it on different layers is because when you are drawing on your models, you can now you can hide them or show them, and you can also bring down the opacity of them so that they'll have less of an effect on your model. So I usually have like a push and pull layer and a stamp layer, maybe a details layer, the same way that I would have in Photoshop, kind of. So the first thing that we're going to look at, there's 2 tabs over here that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the sculpt tools, and we're going to look at the move tools. To move any object in Mudbox, you have to come to the select and move tools, and you can either select by faces, so you just paint that on. To erase it, you hold Control and paint back over that. That's just a line. And you can also select by object, which might take a second to actually select, and then you can move or rotate, scale it. You don't need your object selected to be able to work on it, so I'm going to deselect it so it's not that neon yellow. And I'm going to go back to my Sculpt Tools tab. So we have the sculpt tools. The same way as doing the selection, if I just paint on it, I will have it raised. But if I hold Control, it will depress the area instead. So I can pull or push with just holding Control. I can also toggle through my sculpt tools by hitting the number keys. So 1 is sculpt, 2 is smooth, let's get off of that, 3 is wax, grab, pinch. Yours might be in a different order than mine. I usually try to move the tools up that I use more often towards the first 5 keys, just because I'm using my left hand to push my keys, and so it's easier for me to do 1, 2, 3 instead of, like, remember that it's 1, 4, and 9 that I like using. So you can do that by holding I'm using my, I have to hold, so it's middle mouse button. What just happened to that? Middle mouse button, and then you can move it by sliding. Sorry about that, I had to restart. So getting back to the tools. So you can move the tools by right clicking. If you mess up any of the tools, you might want to delete the settings. So in a Win computer, in My Documents, in Settings, well, in My Documents, Mudbox 2011, delete the Settings folder, and then the next time that you open up Mudbox, will ask you what hotkeys you want to use, and so put the Mudbox hotkeys, and that will reset your tools, because I've had that happen. So let's go back to the tools. Alright, if you hold down B, it will make your brush bigger or smaller. If you hold down M as in Mary, it will affect the strength of your brush. So really high and really low. The other thing that's a really important factor, and right now the properties aren't showing up, but there we go. You can do mirroring, so we can mirror Z, X, Y. Really helpful for doing designs or any sort of symmetrical work you want to do on characters, or I mean, there's a lot of things that you can use that for. The other really important piece is your fall off. So the fall off represents, let me turn off the mirroring. The fall off represents how the brush is going to work. So this will be the middle of your brush, and this is the end of your brush. So right now we have something that has a bulbous middle and then kind of falls off smoothly. It gives me this shape. If you look from underneath, you can see it has the bulbous middle and then falls off the same way that this does. If we were to change this, we can go down to the fall off tab down here, and we can make it really pointy. So now when I do it, has a thinner line. Comes to a point instead of coming to more of a bulb in the middle. If we wound up having it really low, actually it looks a little weird. It has a spike. No, it doesn't. It looked like that had a spike there. This will give you a flatter brush. You put that all the way down. This would be a very flat brush, giving you thick outlines. You can customize your fall off in here, as we were doing, by moving the points, or you can pick a preset in here. You can also use a stamp image for your brush. So we'll go down to the stamp tool down here, and I'll pick a stamp. Let's use that. And so now when I'm painting with that shape. There are settings in here where you can randomize it. Sorry, I crashed again. Hold on a second. Alright, we're back up and running. So we were on the sculpt tools. I'll make my brush smaller by holding B. So I'll just paint some line to show, just to make a design. If you inverted the function, it would be the same as holding down Alt. So now whenever I'm painting normal, it goes in instead of going out. It depends on what you're doing. So you can use a stamp image, that's what we were on. You can use a stamp image, randomize it, rotate it. It doesn't do that much difference with the painting, so we won't talk about that much. The steady stroke, what winds up happening is, let's make this a small brush, and I'll write my name. Oh, let's turn this off first. If I write my name without a steady stroke, let's take off this stamp image. So I'll write my name. If I put on the steady stroke and I turn that down to 1, let's make that 1. You can see how short the arrow is now. It makes it a little smoother. Maybe if there was a straight line. Here, we'll do it this way. Bigger brush. So it gets rid of, using the steady stroke winds up getting rid of human error like this. My hand slipped just a little bit over here. It winds up giving you just a smoother, straighter line. Depending on how far the distance is, it won't react until after you pull it. So if I put that on 1, it was easier to make shorter strokes, as opposed to if it's longer, it's easier to make longer pieces. I guess that'd be better if you were using a really long piece of geometry. I'm not really sure why that'd be good. Again, I can now turn this off, and I'll make another layer. Tools 2. So let's go through some of the other tools that are available to us. Take off that steady stroke. One other thing is in the advanced, if you remember to size, it will remember your settings in between changing your tools. Otherwise, it will always be the last tool that you had. One other thing is the direction. So if I was on Z, it's only going to go in the direction of Z. It's going forward, right? If I put it on Y, it's only going to go up. Doesn't matter where you are. If I'm right here, that makes sense, but if I'm right here, that starts making some weird shapes. So usually you're an average normal, and that goes wherever you are. Or a camera maybe. So you can experiment with that. So the next tool is going to be smooth. That's very self-explanatory. Winds up doing a smooth. Wax winds up building, it's like putting more clay on your model. So it's just adding more clay. It looks like it's just pushing and pulling. If I were to try to sculpt right next to this, it's a little more pointed. It's not as controlled as the wax is. Wax can be compared to fill. The difference is that fill is only going to add more wax up to the tip. So if I'm in here, I'm going to stop the video and go into another part. Just give me a second.